Are we live? Okay. So here we are. Welcome everyone. I see we have at least 8 viewers, but I'm sure we'll have many, many more to come. This is the first official PHP South Africa meetup. We're glad for you all to join us. We have some great talks here today. Well, one talk, unfortunately. Grant, our speaker for the Postman talk, couldn't make it today. So hopefully we'll see him at the next one. Let's just share my screen quickly. Apologies for the construction noise in the background. And cool. So welcome everyone. Agenda for tonight is pretty simple, bit of housekeeping, Tim's talk, some Q&A, thanks and reminders, and the raffle will be at the end for those who participate in the chat. So the housekeeping, where to find us, Twitter, PHP_ZA, meetup.com, PHP South Africa, and participants in the chat, specifically on ZATech today, will stand a chance to get a JetBrains license to any JetBrains product. So let's get the show on the road. Speak for today is Tim Huck, and his talk is on the different stages of learning to deploy code. Take it away.
Hi everyone, just getting everything started here again. Let's see, start the screen. There we are. Cool. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm just checking that everything's gone quiet, but I assume it's more that everyone's muted their mics.
It's on the stream, yeah.
Cool. Part of me is like, I'm not sure why they're doing this, especially if they just, you know, there was a guy who's actually just learning and now he's trying to pay this thing as well while he's learning. It's not even a live product. And the main thing is it's actually reasonably easy to deploy a server to something like DigitalOcean. You know, you pay $5 a month, so it's 50 Rand a month. You don't have to then pay another $20 or $30 on top of that to have something deploying your app. So I've been thinking about this for quite a while that, like, let me talk through what I think the problem is, where people are struggling a bit, and then also put some examples together so people can just follow the examples of how to deploy an app. I'm not going to go into very deep levels with this talk. In the examples, we'll be putting some links in the chats. I've gone very deep. There's fully working code. There's a README that goes through it. At the moment, I've got 3 stages done. I'm going to at least do a 4th stage. It takes you from the most basic zeros where you should start. It then will take you through starting to automate your code deployment and your server setup, and then finally automating your server setup. But let me begin with why I think people are struggling with this. A couple reasons. The first one being is complexity. You know, it is quite complex to deploy servers and know how these things are. So you actually also want, and they're getting overwhelmed by it. Second one is people don't even know where to start. Like, you know, when I started, there weren't that many moving pieces. So you were going to use MySQL. You're going to just very simply set these things up. Nowadays, there's so many choices. So which one do you pick when you're starting? Secondly is like, when is it enough? There's this thing of like, it's a bit of the imposter syndrome that people, I think, feeling, I'm not good enough, or I haven't done all the things I should because, you know, I've read some article or something else like that. Also, like, a lot of people shy away from it because they think it's far harder than it actually is. It's actually not that complicated. Now coming to why you want to deploy yourself. The big reason is eventually you get a lot more control. As you get and you improve with your deployment and you improve with your PHP code, you're actually going to want to be able to control the server more and more. One is to make sure all the right plugins are installed. You can do tuning for optimization. You know, you can tune your Postgres, your MySQL, and everything else, and get it to work incredibly fast. Also, as you know how all the pieces are actually fitting together, it actually gives you oversight. So when you have slowness or problems in certain places, your insight becomes so much better. It actually becomes so much easier to solve the problem. The other big ring is cost. It's actually, if you can deploy yourself, it can save you a lot of money. Like, first of all, like you're not paying L'Oreal Forge on top of to get your DigitalOceans. But let's say as you grow, you maybe now need a bigger server. You can actually deploy to like a real Hetzner Germany server or Hetzner South African server, which costs you, in the range of R1,000 a month for in Hetzner Germany, there was a 64 gig, 6-core NVMe 1 terabyte drive. Like it will outperform, like you'll be spending 50,000 Rand on AWS at that point. And if you know how to deploy yourself, especially if you're a startup or small and you're learning, you can save a scary amount of money. Now it's coming into where I think people are also failing. It's like quite often, especially the juniors, they'll see somebody, like me, I'm a culprit in this. We'll be talking about the latest tech that we've seen to solve the problems you have when you get further along. There'll be Docker, there'll be Swarm, there'll be Kubernetes, the etc.d and proxying and HA and all of those, which you should eventually worry about. But the big problem is when you're starting or if you're new, you don't need to worry about any of that. Even if the thing that the people are talking about does make it better, like you'll get there eventually. Don't try and jump ahead. Rather start slowly. Also, like this is the other thing I picked up. I even have this problem is when you're watching a guy on YouTube or one of the speakers come up here and talk, you must remember most of them are actually, especially the YouTube guys, are like the top of their fields, right? And you then worrying that you can't do these things that these people can do, but they're the 1% of the 1%. So yes, you want to eventually get there and understand what they're talking about because it makes you a better programmer. But if you're not there yet, like you shouldn't feel bad about it. This is a common pattern. I see it even on the programming side. You watch the guy who's busy programming, he's incredibly fast and he does all these things. And especially if you're at the beginning, you feel like, well, I can never do that. Well, I'm not there, so therefore I must be useless. It's not so much that. Like, just be aware when you're watching guys. Also, they're mostly like you're seeing them after lots of prep. The other thing with doing these servers, so you'll see I'm going to be talking about different stages of learning how to deploy applications. Don't worry about doing something, especially with servers, one way and getting that stuck into it. As long as you follow some very basic rules, and that's mainly more just writing down what you're doing, to actually move up to a more automated way is actually not that hard. So in these things, I'm putting the scripts, it's taking a bit longer because there's other things, but I've got like full working examples. Let's say I've spent maybe 5 to 6 days on it, from a simple deploy all the way through to a fully terraformed automated deploy. But we'll take you through that, and hopefully if you go through the steps I'll show you, you can actually steal 90% of the code that I've done. You don't have to spend all the time I have. The other problem is, we're coming back to the complexity, is people try to start at the, I hear Kubernetes thing, let me start deploying there. The problem is by the point you deploying to Kubernetes, there's so many things you need to know. If you start there, you're trying to learn a million things, which everyone will fail. I'll fail. The brightest guy, if you start at the end of the race, you'll fail. Imagine you're trying to learn to become a professional sprinter. If you start sprinting against professional guys, you'll lose, right? You want to start at the beginning and work your way out, get the muscles up, get the thing. Eventually you'll get there, but don't start there. Basically start simple and then add on. All right, let me talk through the different stages I see that, yes, Ross, learning stuff takes a lot of time. Like, also you must remember, when you're talking like something like me, when I talk about these things, I've been programming now for over 20 years. Like there's things I don't even know that I know anymore. And it's actually quite a problem, especially when we talk, is like, we'll be talking here and you don't need to be there. And like anybody who expects you to be there when you're starting, or to anyway, even if you are there, there are the areas of coding that I know very little about, that the other guys, when I look at them, I'm like, oh my word, I'm useless, right? I have the feeling as well, is a lot of this is like, get rid of that feeling. Like, it's okay to be a beginner. There's certain things I'm a beginner in, you've got to learn, especially when you get better at things. It's okay to, when you're starting learning something new, like I've just been getting back into Kubernetes properly, but actually with the deployment onto Raspberry Pi. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know nothing. And just being okay to be a bit vulnerable and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And to do that is, if you can learn that, your career will pay off throughout your career. Because as you go, things are going to change. You're going to learn this technology and it's going to sort of die. You're going to have to go back, become a beginner. And then, but each time you do that, you are going to be picking up more. So you'll do it faster and faster, but it's okay to come and be a beginner. It's also okay not to know everything. No one out there knows everything. I always laugh at this thing about a full stack engineer. I always thought it meant that you had to be able to do everything. I realized, like, when people talk about full stack engineers, that there are very few people who know how to do everything. I can count them on my hand generally. Anyway, let me coming back to, I've broken the deployments into, or the examples into stages. Especially if you're beginning and you've never done anything, start at stage 0. And that is, I know nothing. I've never done a server deployment. I've never deployed PHP code, whatever. It's the most simplest. And it's like that for a reason. And when you go to stage 1, then it takes everything you've done in stage 0 and just builds on it, right? And then stage 2, it builds on it. There's going to be at least a stage 3, which I just haven't had time to get to, but I'll talk near the end what that's about. But it's learning how each of those stages work, and like learn the one thing, then build on top of it. Also with this thing, if you do know a bit more and you're looking at stage 0 and you go, I know it, and you want to jump to stage 1 or 2, feel free. It's everything here is about playing. If you want to take bits from different stages, and like, I like this from stage 1 and this from stage 2, mix it. Like, there is no right way to do this. I'm more trying to give the people who don't have structure and don't know what to do a bit of structure of how to work through it. But if you're a bit further along or whatever, like, anybody who says this is the only way to do stuff, and you should never do it any other way, that's such a falsehood in all of life. There's always so many other ways to do it. As I said, so what I'm showing you is a suggested path. It's not the perfect path. One thing is, each of the stages has complete working examples, including like a document that takes you through it. Stage 3, I still need to write some of the document, but all the code is working. You just need to do things like replace. I've used like example.com everywhere. You just need to replace it with your domain. Each stage does build on the previous stage. If you do get a bit stuck, if you're jumping ahead in your stage 2 and you're like, why the hell are you doing this? Maybe jump back a stage or 2. I don't always, especially near the end, I'm explaining a bit less and less. So like what Packer is and how Packer works, like, I'm not going to go in depth. I'm more going to show you, here's a working example. This is how I've set it up. Like, if you want to go into depth what every single step does and how it works, just go read the documentation. It's more that, like, even with me limiting like that, it's taking about a day to 2 days per stage to write. So like, if I had to do everything, I'd be writing a book. And that's just the main thing. But if there are any comments about you didn't understand something or do, but please give me feedback. I'll happily add more information there. So if people are getting stuck, we are on the ZA Tech Stack channel. We're all very happy to answer questions about this stuff. Once again, with the examples there, I've done the examples more to show you how to do things. They're not perfect examples. They're not necessarily how I would create a live server. But the problem with that is everybody's case is a bit unique. Let's say you adding a service that opens a port, like somebody was opening Redis on the server because another server had to speak to it. Like, I haven't gone over firewall rules that you need to then block it from the outside world. Like in my one, it binds to localhost. So I'm not worrying about that. But that doesn't mean I think you shouldn't worry about it. It's more like, once again, there's too much to learn. Let me show you how to get a basic one working. And then over time, you can start adding firewalls and IP tables and all the rest to it. All the things are on GitHub, including this presentation. I am going to be over time updating it. I am planning, I'm going to be doing some YouTube videos, taking everyone through each of the stages as well. I'd actually planned to have them down, but it's taking a lot more work than I expected. But that will be coming over time. I'll drop those links in the ZA Check channel, but also all the stuff I'll be updating the Git repo. Hopefully the guys will drop it into the chat. The ER links here, if you can see that, I've done a short URL one to get to the Git link. It is there, but once again, if you miss them, just shout, we'll give them to you in the chat. All right, let's start with stage 0. Okay, so in my head is you're at stage 0, which means you're on the ground floor. You have been doing some PHP programming. You maybe have some using Laravel. You've done server setup. Sorry, so they just mentioned the cats. Every talk needs cats. It's what keeps all the talks working. You've got a server working, but now you want to deploy your code to the internet. So let's say a client can see it, or you're trying to learn the next step of, I want to start learning servers, which I do highly recommend, because in learning it, you're going to pick up a lot of things of why certain things are done, and you're going to become a much better programmer. You don't need to know it perfectly. That's not what I'm saying. You might need to rely on your DevOps people to do it, but if you know a bit more, when something's broken and you can go chat to the DevOps guys, you'll be surprised how much quicker things and how much nicer it gets for both sides if both sides know a little bit about each other's one. But let's go back to stage 0. You know nothing, right? The idea here is keep it simple. It's the whole KISS simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't know if we'll say that anymore. So many people try over complicate this on their first server install, right? And by keeping it simple, I mean literally get a server up somehow. Either you get a real server somewhere, or my recommendation is DigitalOcean. There's like 20 million other guys. I've used DigitalOcean a lot, so I just know they're fairly good. Get a $5 server, the cheapest one they have. Start it up. Get your SSH keys on it. Then do your installs manually, right? If you look through my stage 0, I take you through how to each of the app get used Ubuntu. But if you feel more comfortable with another OS, please do that. Just my examples follow Ubuntu. I'll take you through every single step of every single install that you need to do. There's a file with all the commands in as well, so you can copy and paste them quite easily, or just paste the whole thing in. By doing those manuals install, you start getting a feel of how to set up a server. Like that will actually pay off with every other thing you do going forward. Like if you're going to not skip one thing, this is the bit, is learn how to do it on a server. Learn how to manually do it. Because if you move to Ansible, it's going to help you. If you're going to move to Docker, it's going to help you later on. A bit less with Kubernetes, but that's actually Docker. Any containerization or versioning or imaging, knowing how the basic server underneath works will pay off. One thing I'm going to say is try document what you do. We didn't do this so much in the old days, but as you set up the server, have a text file where you put your steps in. Why? Is because when you move to the next stage where we start automating it, that text file is going to save your life, because you're not going to have to just go back, and otherwise you're going to install the server in a year's time. You're going to come back and go, what the hell did I do here? Why is this set up this way? Or if you want to now move to automating the server setup, you'd have to try and remember what you did, or grab history with everything else in it. But if you write those steps down, you're going to see like moving to Ansible or something is very easy. My advice is, if you don't know whatever, just follow the guides we have in the example stuff. Okay. These are some of the complaints we're doing. So if you go to stage 0 and you chat to some guys in the chat, you're going to get these things. But why is it not using Docker? Why? I can't think of, like, why is it not using a automated CI pipeline for deploy, whatever? And my argument there is, you're learning, you're at the beginning, right? None of that matters. You need to learn the basics. Ignore them, right? Ignore people telling you wrong. Like, haters are going to hate. Everyone's going to like, no, I know a better way. Possibly if a guy's sitting here, let me help you. Like, those are the guys you actually maybe want to listen to. That guy will help you and teach you how to maybe move a stage before. But if a guy's just shouting at you, do it, just ignore them for now. Like, we have a lot of this. I know, I even do it sometimes. And I'll be quite happy if you just tell me to buzz off as well. And sometimes I'm just doing it tongue in cheek as well. I go, no, but you should be doing this. we have that a lot in our programming language. Some of it is not actually serious and people can take it quite seriously. Some of it is the guys just being a bit obstinate about there is an only one perfect way, but there isn't. And especially when you're beginning, you need to learn. As you get better, you actually start to become more secure in what you're doing and you're more able to say, no, I'm here, let me just do this. But in the beginning, just be aware it's okay to say, no, I'm just learning, I'm just starting here. And the main thing why is it's keeping the complexity down. Even more importantly, though, what you don't realize is more sites run this way than you think. And when I say like big sites run this way, so yes, maybe the Googles and the Facebooks don't, but they have teams that manage this and all they do all day is this. You know, I think my broadband is just running on a single server somewhere. I shouldn't say that. You know, like some of the very big sites are just running on single servers. Just done this very simple hacky install and it's working fine. I will say, like, you know, start here, but like my thing is here, I'm giving you absolute permission to start at the beginning and start basically. What I'm not giving you permission though is to stay there. You always want to be improving. And once you've mastered the basics, you want to see, how do I improve, right? You know, if you've done something insecurely the first time and you then don't learn from that, that's the problem. But no one really, like we all have made mistakes. We've all put stupid code out there. I think most of our seniors have all done things where they can get SQL injected, which is less likely now because we've got much better frameworks. But yeah, just be okay with that. Also, people are going to say, but there's no HA. Once again, don't worry about that. HA is a very hard problem, right? I don't know if that many people can solve it. If you stick with this, you will eventually learn. My stage 3 example that I have does solve HA for the web server. So there's an example of how to do that there. Sorry, HA is high availability. It's that basically you have a single point of failure. If the one server goes down, your DB's gone, your server's gone, everything's gone. You should maybe start looking at backups after a while. If you're on DigitalOcean, they'll do auto backups for you and stuff. But like, once again, don't worry about high availability, which is multiple servers and slave DBs and all the rest of it. Like, trust me, as you progress, you'll eventually get there and it will start to feel easy, but it only will feel easily eventually because you just practiced enough. So, you know, it's like watching a professional sports person. Like when they do it, it looks so easy, but if you try to do it, it's very hard. You will eventually get there, but don't try jump to that level. Also, once again, far more sites than you realize are doing this. Like I was reading something on Hacker News, some big image site that was used by so many people on some Twitter thing. Basically, with some guy's laptop, you actually wake up at 12 o'clock at night because the server needs to be rebooted every 12 hours, otherwise the whole thing would crash, right? And this was a thing that millions of people were using. So a lot more of these things are hacky. Once again, you don't want to stop there, but if you start there, it's okay. With stage 1.0, you're also going to learn about like what basic config files you need, how the services work. And as I said before, without that knowledge of this basic thing, so like, once again, I'm going to stress, starting with doing a very, very simple server install, you really need that. Like you will suffer for the rest of your life if you don't learn, if you try to jump ahead without just doing some basic server installs, just by hand and how the configs and where the configs exist. If you really want to punish yourself, go learn how to install Gen 2, but I don't recommend that. But just learning how this basic stuff works, everything else will make sense after that. But if you skip this, it won't make sense. Okay, so you've done your first server install. That's gone well. You've got your server set up. It's got the web server running. In the example I have, you've got SSL certs auto-generating from Let's Encrypt. Everything's up. It's got a DB. It's got Redis. Everything's nice. Okay. What do you want to do next? Okay. Now you want to start trying to automate it, right? Because previously, the server died. How do you rebuild it? You know, it's slow. It's a slow process. There's no documentation of it. So in the automation process, you're doing a couple of things. One is you're making it easy to set up secondary servers or more servers when you want to go to high availability. You now also document it, so especially if you start getting into the higher, larger corporations, they need to do all the documentation for compliance. Automation scripts gets counted as documentation for compliance. Right? If you do this, it happens. Secondly, on that day you're sick, somebody else in your team can run the script. You don't know how useful that is. It's, you know, like I know the one time you'd be surprised what breaks on Christmas Day or New Year's Eve. And you want to have it that maybe they've got to call you, but you can just say, oh, log into this, run the script. Eventually you don't want to have that. There must be like you eventually want to get to that's all automated. But once again, when you're starting, you don't want to do that. I'm going to check once again here. Remember I said you need to save your scripts into a file in stage 0. This is where it's going to start paying off. When you start doing like the automation stuff, you're going to need that file. For the automation of the server setup, I recommend Ansible. There's a whole bunch of others. The main thing with Ansible, it's the simplest to learn. It does seem to be winning a little bit, but I don't know. You know, if you'll be some guy, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm trying to remember. There's Chef and there's Puppet as well, and there's Salt, and everybody's going to have their feeling. The good thing though is if you do it in one, to then convert the scripts to another is not that hard. But once again, I like simple. Keep things simple. Ansible is fairly simple to use. It's fairly easy. Once again, if you go look in the stage 1 directory, I have all of this document of how to do an Ansible. So all the code of setting up a web server and setting up a MySQL server, I've then converted into an Ansible script. So it does a complete setup of the server. So basically, once you spin up the server in DigitalOcean via the GUI, you can run that Ansible script, and you don't even have to log into the server. And you have a full running website at the end of it. That's where you want to get to. And you can do it. It's not as hard. Like, it's hard learning all the steps to it. But with mine, you can go steal it and then read through it and process it. So you can jump a couple steps ahead. But actually, once you've got the patterns, and most of the patterns is just, once again, it's repeating what you learned in stage 0, is how that server is set up. And that's very close to just running the commands. Once again, there's the examples. You can grab the link there, or they're all in the same repository. So basically, if you just go up and down, I've got links from the main thing to it. As I was saying, the main reasons, one is it becomes repeatable. It's documented. In a year's time, when you want to know what the hell you did or how the config was set up, or why is it breaking? All right, so you make a change to the server. If you're using Ansible, on Tuesday the 4th, why did something happen? And you go to the Git history. Oh, we changed the config slightly. Maybe that's the problem. If somebody's doing it by hand, like I've seen before where there are 4 servers running a site, also all 4 servers were set up differently. And one of the servers' code, somebody had edited by hand, so it was different to the other 3. And that's what we eventually tracked down. The one problem we were having down is because they'd rolled out and then manually edited and weren't deploying the code properly. So you want to do that. It will save a lot of problems. Speed to set up new servers, or you want to set up a staging server that matches prod, you can do that. Something I forgot to mention, all of these things, we've still got the problem of between dev and prod. But yeah, you can get staging on Arcosa. Unfortunately, none of the stages I've done yet solve that. Stage 3 that I'll be doing over the next week or so, I'll be putting stuff of how to set up your dev environment as well. It's coming, just I ran out of time. Right. You've now automated your server deployment. The PHP install, the Git checkout, the SSL cert, all of that's automated, right? Which, as I said, there is an example in that Git repository. What do you do next? Okay. Well, now you want to automate the, sorry, somebody just sent a question in chat. You want to start automating setting up your complete environment. So as much as in a couple of years' time is how was the server set up, you want to know is how was the server built? What is the size of the server? How is my networking wired? You know, what size is my SQL? How is my SQL wide? Setting up DNS. So when I spin up the web service, that they ought to get added to DNS and into the high availability or whatever. Basically automate the rest of the infrastructure. On real services is a bit harder, but the only thing you can really automate there is some guys actually have APIs for metal servers, but it's still a coming thing. This works a lot more if you're in one of the cloud guys. I normally mainly use Terraform here. I will mention it. You can actually do multiple. So you'll see in the examples, I'm using Cloudflare for DNS and DigitalOcean for servers. And I actually did that on purpose to show you that with one Terraform script, you can actually be speaking to different pieces of infrastructure and then wire them together quite nicely. Once again, the reason why you want to do this is documentation, speed of setup. Now is where you actually also want to say, well, I want to spin up, we're under high load, I want to spin up more web servers. With this automation, that becomes very easy, right? You've got to pre-test it and everything, of course, but it becomes significantly easier. You also want to, one of the other steps you want to do is start, especially from the cloud guys, is you want to start pre-building your images. So with the previous Ansible script, you'd start the server, run your Ansible script all the way through, which would take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Now what you want to do is you want to build an image. And then when you start it, it starts the image with all the things installed. So literally it's how quickly can you start a new virtual server. So it takes a 15-minute setup into a 10 or 20 or 30-second setup. It's significantly faster. Secondly, you know, all the app gates were done at the same time. The correct, if you're following the correct security things, you should be rebuilding your images once a week and then restarting your servers once a week. Because even if somebody is a security, you're basically flushing the security. They're going to re-hack you every time. So the recommendation is actually eventually get that. But I'll be honest, I don't know of a single company or client that's doing it that regularly. Over here, if you're in the cloud, guys, you might also want to start splitting your DB off. Here, you can either put it into another server. What I did in the example for stage 2 is I moved it into using DigitalOcean's Redis and DB. You might want to do that if it gets a bit more expensive, but that's in more real-world scenario. That's more likely what happens. More like DBs are hard to get right, especially with HA and maintenance and all the rest of it. And if you're using the cloud guys, they give you a whole bunch of services that actually makes it quite nice. Just the sheer time saving might be worth the money. Like all these things you're going to trade off and think about it. But it's not quite a black and white thing. As I said, I recommend Terraform. It's very, like, of all the technologies I've learned over the last 10 years, Terraform has been the easiest. Like you'll pick it up in an hour or two. It's very simple. But it's also like it doesn't do much. This is one of the things I was going to mention as well. I should actually add it into the talk. Don't use one tool for everything. Ansible is very good at configuration server setup. It's not good at server management, right? There you want to use Terraform because Terraform is really, really good at server management. It's not good at server setup. Like, don't get a hammer and then turn everything into nail. Rather get different hammers for different nails. Your life will be better and happier. I've seen so many people wrap themselves around and make themselves so unhappy because they've got this one tool that I've learned and I never want to learn another tool. So I'm going to use this tool to do everything. It just doesn't work well. Once again, there's some examples. I've gone over the things. Once again, it's very easy to scale up. Doing failover is very easy now. You can set up a stage environment is horribly simple now because you just change some variables in the thing and it just spin up a new environment. All right, stage 3. I haven't gotten there. I'm still debating what I'm going to do exactly for stage 3, but stage 3 is where you start going, okay, right. I now want to look at things like Kubernetes and maybe Docker Swarm, but that's pretty much dead, but it's basically moving to the Docker world. And the reasons for that are multiple. One is versioning your stuff becomes a lot easier. There's a lot of advantages to moving there. So like now, when you do an update, you've got to run a script and it's got to run against the server to do the git checkout, or you've got to do a rolling things and it's very hard to roll back or forward, or if you do an apt-get install and it fails, to get back is very hard. With Docker, you can just version your images and then say, okay, let's restart the previous image. Also, if you got something like an orchestrator, which is what Kubernetes is, it will then work at how to move things around. But anybody who once again, do not start here because it is horribly complicated. Once again, if you start at the beginning, you move your way up here. By the time you've done all automation stuff, and you start looking at it, you'll have, oh wait, I can see what they're doing, I can see why they're doing it, I can see the problems they're solving. But if you start here, like, it's very hard because just you don't have the mental images of how things work. Over here, I'd also start with automated deployment. So once a build comes out, we tag it maybe with staging, which then auto rolls it out. And then you tag it with prod, once you've confirmed it, and then it auto rolls out to prod. Also, one of the advantages with stage 3 is you can then start building a local dev environment that matches prod like 99%. Like the whole problem of, but it works, it works with my PC, why is it breaking on prod, goes away once you start using Docker. And this is why I might immediately go to Kubernetes, because you can with Docker Desktop go to Kubernetes. Previously, I would have gone to Swarm here because it's just stupidly simple to set up, but unfortunately, it's dying. So I don't want to teach people technology that's going to be dead in 2-3 years. That's pretty much it. Any questions from anyone? I'm going to do a demo. Do you want me to do the demo first, or do you want to do questions?
We can have the questions coming in, but I think a demo would be good.
Right, so let's switch over. I'm just trying to work out how to stop share. Can you guys see my screen? Is it big enough?
Yeah, I got it.
Let's just clear it. Okay, so this is jumping a bit ahead, right? So this is basically, this is the stage 2 scripts that I'm talking about. I've already pre-created the image because that takes about 30 minutes. I don't want to put you guys through it. But I just want to show you the Terraform apply. So in this Terraform apply, it's basically going to spin up 2 web servers, a DB server in DigitalOcean, a Redis in DigitalOcean. It's going to speak to Cloudflare. It's going to set up DNS names for the individual service. So it'll be server 00 and server 01 that will point to the specific servers. It will also, I think, and that will actually do HA because Cloudflare, it's got the proxying on. So if one of the servers did die, it would fail over. The only thing I couldn't automate is, unfortunately, DigitalOcean, you can't set the password in the DB name. So you'll see at the end of the script, it actually prints like a bit of an env thing out that you just need to copy and paste in your env file, and then you just do an env deploy again. Sorry, you just do one of the Ansible deploys, and it basically just, only reason is to update the env file so it can speak to the MySQL server. It also, the migrations are obviously not done in the image setup because there's no DB to speak to at that point in time. But the images that start up have basically Nginx installed. They've already pre-generated Let's Encrypt SSL certs, and it's done a compose install for them already, and they get checkout. So the image is pretty much like, and all the apt-get installs. The images, when they start, are pretty much 99% there. It just needs that env update, which I'll show you now, and it needs the migrate to run. Just waiting for this to finish running. Let's see how quick it takes. While that's going, is there any questions that are coming through? Sorry, I can't see the YouTube one. Brad said, let's see the code. Just pull that up quickly. Put that there. I'm just going to switch that off just to bring you back through to the code. Where's the... Okay. So over here, we've got all the code. We had a question here, is can't your MySQL credits be managed by Ansible Vault instead of printing and copy pasting? Yes, it can. I haven't gone that far. When I go the Kubernetes route, I'll be going that far. It will be fully automated. But I might be using the Kubernetes secrets at that point. With that one, when I do the Kubernetes one, it's going to actually have logging done. So it will have log stash logging. It will have Postgres for handling mail, so the things can send mail to postfix, not Postgres, postfix, that will auto be credentialed out and all the rest of it. And the main thing, yeah, like this is still on the progress to full automation. Anyway, here's the code. We're busy deploying stage 2 just to show you where we are. Once again, I've written exactly what you need to do. This one just needs a little bit more. I just need to talk about the Packer setup and then the Terraform. But here's the code with infra. You can see the Ansible directory, Packer directory, and whatever. I've redone the Packer one, and basically Packer just builds your images. So it goes through there. Over here, it then runs your Ansible scripts, which you actually set up most of it in stage 1. Ansible has roles. I've split the roles up to do deployment. It does sets up Nginx PHP. Actually does some tuning of PHP, which is like your INI settings. And it's got a thing to just do upgrades. And what we're running now is the Terraform. Not sure what to show you. Here's the Terraform for a server. Basically, you can see it's just basically spin up a server. The variable, the amount of servers set up in a variables. So if I wanted to have 3 servers, I would just go through to variables, and I'll change that to 3, and it would deploy an extra server. I've done the same for your DB count and the rest of it. Okay, the thing is just finished. Where is it? Okay, so you'll see it finished running. It prints out some of your stuff there for you. I've actually made it so it actually prints it out. Let me just make sure in exactly the format you need for. I've actually done a template for you even, so you can just copy paste this into. Not showing you that yet. So I'm just thinking through this quickly before I screw something up. No, so that one is deployment. Basically, I'm just copying that into the Ansible directories deployment one. Okay. So right now we're in Terraform, so we just want to go back into the Ansible playbook deployment. Sorry, I've been testing this stuff up, so it's remembering my keys. Basically, the servers and the certs and everything are up already. So if you actually hit cusd.com, it should be up at broken. So if you go there, you'll see it's up and broken. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. Let me just, yeah. So I'm just accepting the SSH keys, I think. There's a way that you can set, by the way, these DNS names I'm using were auto-generated from Terraform into Cloudflare. You guys are welcome to ask any questions you have. Like this script does the full deployment, so it's maybe not the fastest, but it also allows you to later on when you want to do rolling updates for prod, you can just run this deployment script and it will update both servers to the newer PHP with get checkouts in the things I talk about, actually doing it with SSH keys. So the keys are added to your Git repo, how to do it so you can add multiple keys. I only got one, but I'll actually show you the example of how to do it because you can only have one SSH key per one SSH deploy key per repo, but it's actually quite easy to do that with your SSH config. The SSH, the PHP update depends. So that would be in the, let me just wait for this to finish and then I'll show you that. There's actually a playbook that does the upgrade. At the moment, it's hard locked to PHP 7.4, but you just change a variable in your host.ini if you want to change it to 8 or one of the others. And then you just run the upgrade playbook. I'll show you how to do that now. It's also, you should be running that once a week or something like that. Or what you want to do is you want to update the Ansible script. What's actually better to do is update the Ansible script, run Packet to build a new image, change your image in your Terraform file, redeploy. And the advantage of that is if something goes horribly wrong, you can just switch back to the old image and roll back. If you want to get a bit fancier, what I had with the other company who were doing this, we actually had 3 sets of servers. So when you deployed a new image to server 1. When that worked, you deployed it to server 2 set and then server 3 set. Okay. If you now go to custody.com, you see it's working. Basically, that full setup of server, I don't know, how long did it take me? 5-10 minutes from like having nothing to get deployed, everything. Packer. Packer is something done by HashiCorp, the guys who made Vagrant and Terraform. Packer is basically just, it's a way of creating cloud images. And basically what it does is it spins up a virtual server for you. It then runs some scripts for you in it that you'll see your scripts. It's like, okay, I want you to install this. I want you to run this Ansible against it. And then at the end, it basically tells the cloud to compress that image and save it as an image file that can be deployed. And returns you that ID and basically deletes it afterwards. Let me just pull up the code and then I'll talk you through some of those questions that we've had. I'm just going to right, you guys should be able to see my editing thing. Let me start with the update, just so we don't right. So I've created a role called upgrade server. Right, and it actually doesn't do much. Sorry. There's the task that you actually run to do the upgrade of PHP. You'll see in here, is this small enough or do I need to expand it? Sorry, is it big enough? Let's do it anyway. I can never remember how to. Okay, let's just leave it for now. I can't remember how to change it. What I'll do is in my host file, I've got a whole bunch of variables. So you can change your domain name here quite easily. Or if you wanted to, let's install PHP 8, you'll just change that. And then in a terminal, you'd do the following. Sorry, I'm showing this to start. CD stage 2 let's just go to stage 1 because that's where it is. Stage 1, Ansible, play. You basically, after you change the INI file, you just run that if you wanted to upgrade to 8. If you just wanted to do a server upgrade, you would then just run like a straightforward, you'd then just run the upgrade playbook. I actually talk about this in the README for stage 1 about what these stages do and what each of the playbooks does. So that's the thing. Let me just show you the Packer scripts now quickly. So here's the Packer script, and basically it needs some things that can talk to. This Cloudflare is passed inside the server. It basically uses Cloudflare to do DNS authentication for certbot to generate the certs, so that in the image there's valid certs already. Just explaining why there's a Cloudflare, because normally you would only need the DigitalOcean. Basically, it says, I want you to start with this DigitalOcean image in this region. I want you to build this on this size server, right? It adds some of those things. Also, then at the end, I want you to call the image this. It then goes through and it runs these builds. You'll see I've got some basic ones here that just make sure Python's installed. It's not so much needed in the newer Ubuntu's, but on the older Ubuntu's, Ansible had some grief if Python was installed properly. It then runs my Ansible playbook, which is the same playbook that we're running just now to do the PHP deploy. It does some extra ones. You can just read through the scripts. It basically does some cleanup. So once Ansible's run, there's some cleanup you want to do, basically like to zero out the drive. And the reason is that when it then creates the image file and compresses it, it compresses significantly smaller because it's zero. It knows that that's empty. But you can read through that. I'm not going to go in depth on there because it starts getting a bit complicated. For now, if you don't know what you're doing, just copy what I've done. And then bit by bit read through what each of those things are doing. A lot of these things are also started from other people. That's how we all do it. It also puts a message of the day in and does some cleanup. But basically, that just runs through. I can run the Packer thing now. It's just not going to finish. So I'm just trying to remember what the command is. So here's an example of it running the Packer. You'll see it just starts off, spins up an image. If I go to DigitalOcean now, sorry, this is just Cloudflare. I just want to show you. Oh, wait, let's just. So I'm just showing you here. I've just shown you Cloudflare. You can see all the things. It generated these entries, by the way. So once the DigitalOcean server spun up, it grabbed its IP. This is Terraform, and basically then injected that into Cloudflare for you. It's also done the websites, and it's set them to proxied, which gives us our high availability. All these things here are set up that way. I've also done the setup so it's working with IPv6. I've tried to give you like so many examples when I go online are not real world examples. They just show you, oh, here's one thing and it does, and then you actually start trying to use the thing in real life, and it's like, damn it, the thing doesn't actually work in real life because it didn't cater for this other weird thing. So here's as an example, I had to set up for the DB. I've set up rules to block the internet access, right? But now I need to do loops. And I spent a while trying to work out how to do loops with the new Terraform, but that is all in there for you. So all the examples I've done are complete working examples. Sorry, I just want to show you. There's the server that it's spun up that's testing against, and there's the other two servers, and there's the DBs that they spun up. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I'm not going to wait for that Packer one to finish because it is going to take, I think it took 15 or 20 minutes last time. That's pretty much most of the talk. Like the whole idea of this was to do on a high level, because like if I had to talk you through how to do each of those steps, like we said, like I'd have to spend like 2-3 hours on one stage. It's a bit too complicated. The other thing here is, like, quite often in the talk, like, I want to show you the thought process. Because if you've got the thought process, then when you're actually seeing what we're doing, it makes sense. If I just go into the deep, deep details, like, you're going to get lost in the weeds and not get some of the thought process in. I'm also trying to do it in my readmes. I've tried to go, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Maybe I'm doing this for later. So here's a good example. Here in stage 2, as an example, when I set up keys, no, there they are. Wait, so I'm just trying to find the thing. I actually set up scripts that will auto set the key for you, because then I don't have to remember when I'm working on a client. Also means they're always unset, so I can't accidentally run scripts against a real key. And then when I need it, I just run the script. And here's an example. So with the key for the DigitalOcean for Cloudflare. So before I run Ansible or run the Terraform, I run this script. And it basically sets up my environment.
Screen share that?
Sorry, can't you see what I'm pointing at? No. Sorry, everyone. Let's just do desktop 2. So I can choose. Sorry about that. So like here, I go through how I do is I set up this function, which is just bash. It works in ZSH as well, with my keys in it. There's 2 of them because I need to pass in Terraform. If you go tvar variable name, Terraform will auto read it in. And there's one for Cloudflare as well. And then you'll see I create one that will run for both, so that I don't have to run both every single time. Let's just go. So let's say, if I wanted to then run the script. So if I went into cd stage 2 infra Terraform, like if I run a Terraform apply now, you see it's immediately asking me for the key. And I do this to stop me accidentally, because I actually did it once, and since then I've done this, where I was running some tests and a client phoned me up and said, "Hi, are you testing so-and-so?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's weird. How do you know?" It's like, "Oh, because you're running against our servers on our," like, it wasn't a lot. It was a very small thing, but I felt, so I've not, like, just learned this. Never have your keys auto set. You'll shoot. It's not a good idea. So what I would do is then just run that. And it's only set for this shell. Now when I run it, it's auto set. If I use clients for my clients, I have scripts for each of the clients, so that when I need to connect to them, I just run that. All this environmental variables auto get set up. Okay, you can see it run perfectly there. But I've tried to do that in these things. I've also talked, how do you generate the keys? What are the settings you need for the keys? That's for stage 2. In stage 0 and stage 1, I just do HTTP gets for the certbot. And then for stage 2, I actually do the DNS one, because you're doing an image build, the server can't get, there is no HTTP to get into. Like, you don't know the IPs, and otherwise you have to wait for DNS to propagate and a bunch of other problems. I'm sure, see, maybe this thing is going to finish. No, that's going to take a long time. Yeah, like, I hope you guys do use this. And oddly enough, like, when I do the stage 3, I'm going to try and do a proper real world, everything in the kitchen sink Kubernetes deploy. But it's going to take me probably another week or so. So for stage 2, I still need to do some of the write-up. I've done 40% of the document. All the scripts are fully working. Like, I've finished that today. Just need to do some of the write-ups to explain what they're doing. I'm starting to skip a little bit, because right now, like I said, going into how Ansible Packer exactly works. Like at these stages, you should go read. Like it would take me too long to write. And then for stage 3, I'll actually be talking about setting up a full Kubernetes cluster. What things like the dashboard installed. It's like that's the thing as I picked up when I was playing with this thing, is so many of these things show you one piece, but actually don't show you how to make them all work together, which that's actually when it gets complicated. Is how do, like, oh, cool, you're doing auto DNS generation, but it's now fails with cert. How do you get that working with cert? And I'll have a complete version of that. I'm still, and I'll actually make sure we then run the database and Redis inside the cluster, so we can maybe show you how to set up a full HA Redis and MySQL using Kubernetes. I don't know how to do that, so it'll be a good test for me. I have no channel. I expected to be so much further than I am now. It's taken me many more days than I expected to get all this stuff done. The idea is I'm going to get all this done, and then I'm going to start doing the YouTube. But then I'll start sharing. I want feedback, so I'll share it in the Slack channels. The problem with the YouTube videos is I had it even like as I was doing stage 2 that I realized I needed to do something in stage 0 so that it made sense in stage 2. So I'm still like, so I don't want to like start doing YouTube videos until I've finished all the code. Because I want it to actually feel very cohesive and whole so that guys aren't getting that confused. I don't think I'm going to be changing much in stage 0, I must be honest, but I have had that happen now. Also, like you guys, if there's any extra thing you want to add or any questions, like I'm happy to answer them or add more explanations in those things. I'm sure also going to make the whole document a PDF at some point, put it on somewhere for free. I hope this helps, guys.
That was awesome.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said in the channel a few days ago as well, I'm really keen to dig into it. It's basically what I was looking to, parts of it are what I was looking to do for myself at some point, just have this reference and go from there. Tim, do you mind just sharing again, where can we find you online?
Website is hark.co. I have a Twitter account, all the rest of it, I never use it. So emails is probably the best. You can get on me at Tim at Hark or anything at Hark, it will come through. Or on the Laravel PHP Slack channel. Guys, if you're not joining us there, please come join us there. The community is quite good. We're trying to build the community. So we're trying to do all the chatting in there, not on the YouTube. Not because we want to exclude, but more we want to be more inclusive so that after these videos, after these chats, we have one place we always go to. So during the day, a lot of us are on there. If you're not just at us, we'll then catch it later on. Yeah, like the only way, like community is very important. The more we share and the more we do this, the better. We're also looking for more people to want to do talks. So if anybody's keen or knows something interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, we're constantly looking for speakers. If you'd like to dip your toes into the space, you can contact us, myself or Tim or Brad. You can see Brad in the channel there as well. Or just go to phpsouthafrica.org and you'll find more info as per usual.
Yeah.
So,
also, if there are talks you guys want, like you don't have to, let's say you want to know more about why, just suggest it to us. Maybe one of us 3 or 4, we all know someone that we can, because quite often people don't want to talk because they think that topic is no one will know. If somebody's interested, we will find someone.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so much to cover all under the sun, and I mean, I've been at these meetups for a few years now. You guys have been around longer than I have, but there's so many topics to cover. That's not just directly PHP, and it helps to diversify your knowledge portfolio a bit, so to speak.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not just that. We also open to not just that you want to talk. It's like just ask.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone's normally quite friendly. And I'm looking forward to when we can meet up again. I miss the PHP meetups. More just to meet the guys and actually see the proper people.
Is it just the free food or the swag?
Free beer.
It's the beer, definitely the beer.
Yeah.
No, it's mainly meeting up with the guys.
I've only hosted one physical meetup.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was the first one I did last Feb at Swerbalist, and then things locked down. Whoops.
Hi, Ian. Sorry, somebody I work with.
Hey. Cool. So the final part of the night. Thank you for attending, everyone. The final part is the raffle. Let me share my nice slide here. My thanks for joining slide. So I'm just going to compile a quick list. And like I said, it's raffle time. What we've got. Oh, Zoom's getting in the way now. That window likes popping up when it shouldn't. So I don't know where you're watching from. Do a drum roll at your desk, maybe, or by yourself, or in your mind, while we pick a winner. And the winner for the JetBrains license is Matthew Rawlings. I will DM you directly on ZA Tech shortly, and we'll get you a license. General thing, if you do already have a license, then I would say you can either let us know and we'll raffle it to someone else, or just pass it on, pass the gift along. Like I said, we're trying to encourage sharing as we go along in this community venture. So that's it for us today. Thank you all for joining us. And that'll be us signing out.